Hello everyone, good afternoon. I'm Raisa, a student of STEMBA for SBM ITB. So today I'll discussing about the factor influencing household adoption of rooftop solar PV in Indonesia for my midterm exam in economic and business landscape analysis. Let's see introduction. So we're going to discuss about 3 points. Firstly, the global energy challenge. Secondly, Indonesia current energy mix. And lastly, about the PV adoption in Indonesia. So when we talk about the global energy challenge, link it to the climate change, largely due to our reliance on fossil fuel to generate electricity. And as you know that global electricity consumption is projected rise by 150% by the 2050. So the data show 40% global energy related carbon emission and the highlighting the urgent need for decarbonization. And when we talk about the Indonesia current energy, we see the data that our total rely on to the fossil fuel, especially coal. Like we know that around 90% of national production that's rely on coal, and so this reliance pose a significant challenge to its climate commitment and the broader clean energy transition. So that's why the urgent to energy transition. So we know the portion when we're going to move from fossil fuel to the renewable one. And when we talk about the renewable one, we know about the PV adoption in Indonesia. Like we know that to commit reducing coal use, we need energy transition, and PV is one of the solution. Why PV is one of solution? Like the data show Indonesia untapped markets is potential to generate electricity of the solar PV. Okay, next slide, we're going to talk about exploring solar PV opportunities in Indonesia. When we talk about the opportunities, so the opportunities of energy landscape, and there's another opportunity is growing of rooftop solar PV. When we talk energy landscape, so Indonesia's strategic equatorial location, which abundant of solar energy should be. And then when we see the graphic, we see that solar PV still use 702 gigawatts, so the potential solar PV to generate electricity is still huge. Like we all know that today we rely on the coal, and for the current dominance of fossil fuel, especially coal in electricity generation, can substitute with another source of the source of electricity. Like we can use the one of the solar PV. And then State Indonesia ambition renewable energy target as adoption of a solar PV can be one of solution to be claim that we approach the renewable energy target as what we already commit in Paris Agreement. And then growing of rooftop solar PV, like emphasis of the significant potential of rooftop solar for household, and then the increasing interest from business and industry in rooftop PV for environmental, social, governance principle and competitiveness. And then the benefit of rooftop solar not requiring a dedicated lane, like you just put the PV on your roof without need land dedicated to put all the PV. So in terms of this land use, it can more efficient because we use the rooftop solar. And then growing of rooftop solar also show by a successful project like the Cirata Reservoir floating solar power plant that end of 2023. So solar energy can enhance energy access in remote area through microgrids and solar home system. Well, let's move to household adoption of solar PV in Indonesia. in the rigid form, like the Indonesian solar paradox, Indonesia is blessed with immense solar energy potential, like abundance of solar energy. Yes, its adoption at the household level has been surprisingly slow. Like data showing that a low utilization, like below 1% of households have adopted rooftop solar PV, despite millions of eligible rooftops. And then this creates a critical gap between potential and reality in the nation clean energy transition. Like actually we have the potential, but we not really utilize the potential. Then what actually the factor that influence the adoption of rooftop solar PV in Indonesia? So the firstly is socio-demographic factor. What actually the certain socio-demographic factor? The first is income and status. So from the study showing higher income and being the head of the household positively correlate with high adoption preference. So early adopters are often urban and affluent. And talk about age. Younger individuals are generally more likely to prefer and adopt new technologies like solar PV compared to older generations. So that's why if the house that is a house of age of or even millennials and Gen Z, they prefer to using rooftop solar PV than the age that is a boomer or X generation. And when we call about the education, a higher education level is linked to a better understanding of solar technology and a higher probability of adoption. And this is related with studies and research. We talk that education give the performance of adoption of solar higher than the people not educated. So that's what is one of the factor that influence the adopt the PV is the education. And then peer influence. Why peer influence? Because we know social of the Indonesian people, like we are really friendly hospitality. So having peers who have already installed solar PV is one of the strongest predictor of adoption, like highlighting the power of social network. Like as it before that, we all in Indonesia we like the recommendation of our neighborhood. And then the community engagement membership in environmental communities significantly increase the likelihood of brevering and installing rooftop solar. And then the last one, socio-demographic factor, is location. This means that residents in Java are less likely to have high preference because the source of information and they have the soft of PV installation, so easy to assess that. So that's why like location is determine the adoption of a solar PV. Then term of household preference, a mixed picture. We can see that 38.6%. So the majority Indonesian is have low preference, and then 37.8% is high preference. So majority of Indonesian households express initial interest in solar technology. The actual commitment to adopt remains low. Understanding this distribution of preferences is key to designing effective policies. Then when we talk about the key drivers of adoption, so the consumer behavior, Indonesian people, household, the motivation to install is actually economics benefit that of course like economic saving 48% and then environmental concern. So the people still concerned about the economic saving that relate to with current social economic in Indonesia. And the barrier to installation, financial hurdles, and a lack of a clear information are the most commonly cited reason for not adopting solar PV. Like the graphic show that high upfront cost and then low payback period, and then lack of information. So the next slide, we talk about navigating the policy maze. Like you all know, the concentration of adoption, what is the factor actually influencing adoption of rooftop solar PV, socio-demographic, then consumer behavior, and the important one is about the government policy. Like it's a critical driver, but a history of shifting regulation has created uncertainty. Like the latest regulation marks a significant change in economic proportion for households. Previous one, like export credit, allow household to sell excess electricity to the grid, valued at 5% of the retail tariff, and then the main barrier seen as an uncompetitive rate, leading to long payback periods and low financial appeal. And the new regulation, Permen SDM 2024, there's a 4-point like no export credit, no capacity limits, no extra charges, and implication like shift focus from prosumer profit to direct self-consumption and bill reduction, altering the core economic motivation. In conclusion, household rooftop solar PV adoption in Indonesia faces complex challenges. While there's a positive general inclination, overall prevalence remains low and then heavily influenced by socio-demographic factor and crucially peer influence and environmental community involvement, and also about the policy. So we take the 4 points. Firstly, green, stable, and targeted policies. We develop clear long-term regulation and over differentiated incentive that cater to diverse household segment like urban versus rural and in varying income levels, and then provide financial support as the data show before that the preference household adoption about the rooftop solar PV is about the economic cost. So introduce green financing mechanism for business and then subsidies or tax incentive to overcome the high upfront cost barrier, which remain the primary obstacle. And then launch awareness campaign. Like we know that not all the people have access about the PV. Like when we talk about Bali, we talk about Jakarta, a lot of information so they can access about what is actually a PV, how can we install the PV. But what about the rural? So the government, if want to increase using of the PV or influence people or household to adoption, but if we should launch awareness campaign like to increase public knowledge about the benefit, the cost, the procedure of solar PV itself. Like that's to possible the household to know about the benefit of solar PV. Like when we talk about the solar PV, it's not just about the solar PV to generate electricity, but we talk about the green one, we talk about the environment, and then we talk about our commitment to reduce fossil fuel to the green energy. And then the last but not least is about develop new business model. As we know that state-owned electricity company, that is PLN, should encourage like private PLN and private company to offer innovative solution. Then make some adoption to make the household or business can prefer using solar PV to generate the electricity, and we can move to the transition of the renewable energy. Okay, that's all my presentation. Thank you for your attention. See you next time.